Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. This is Todd with Industrial Comfort. If you saw the first video where I turned a charred oak whiskey tasting glass, you would have seen at the end when we got to the tasting part that it leaked all over the place. Now, a lot of this was due in part to the fact that it had a bunch of beetle holes. Now, this was oak that came down from a tree that was clearly diseased, hence the beetle holes. So I've taken a different approach turning this cup, and what I've done differently is two things. One is that I've left significantly more material on the bottom to prevent leakage, but I've also instead laminated a bunch of oak together that I got at a big box hardware store. Now this would guarantee that there's no disease, there are no beetle holes, and it's properly kiln dried. So let's go ahead and turn this and see what happens. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do here is rough out a tenon so that I can place this in a chuck instead of between centers so that we can have something firm to hold on to. Okay, for this next step, I'm going to round it over before we drill out what's going to be the center of the cup. Now, unlike last time, I'm going with some pieces of oak that have been laminated together, making sure that I'm going to leave enough space on the bottom here just in case any whiskey soaks into the grain, which is oriented downward. That way my feeling is, hey, maybe it'll stop any leakage. The other thing is, I ended up putting some pieces of oak going in the opposite direction, perpendicular to this grain, thinking that, okay, well maybe I'll make this the bottom of the tasting cup. But I think I'm gonna try to turn this and, just ensure that we've got a big hunk on the bottom here to prevent any leakage. So let's see if this ends up working. If not, I've got a second block and we can use the bottom here for the bottom of the cup. All right, for this next step, I am going to take a 1 5/8 inch Forstner bit to core out the center of this blank. All right, so here's where the fun starts. So I use a very unsophisticated method to determine what is going to be the bottom of this glass. And I'm just making a line right here. And I'm going to use my parting tool just to create a small channel here so I know where to stop insofar as how I'm going to sort of shape the cup here. So I'm going to turn the lathe on and we'll start shaping. Okay, you may have noticed that I'm modeling this cup after the last one that I turned with the same teardrop appearance. And the reason that I'm doing that, if you didn't see the first video, is to create a narrower neck up top that'll trap the scent of the whiskey. As you know, olfactory senses play a huge part of taste, and so by concentrating that scent up here, my belief is that it's going to change the flavor profile of the whiskey that we're going to be tasting. So now that I've done coring this out, I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice char on the inside, not too much, just a nice toasty finish on the inside. And then I'm going to sand the outside, and then we're going to apply a couple of coats of woodturner's finish, which is a food grade finish. It's going to go along the top, and it's a penetrant as well, as opposed to wax, which will just sit on the top. And hopefully that'll give that a good seal so we don't get any leakage this time. Okay, with the finish on the cup, I'm going to part it off, and then we'll probably sand the bottom and give it a test run. Okay, with everything finished on the cup, this is the point in the video where I call Joel over for a tasting. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and do a test run on this cup to make sure it works before having Joel come over so I don't embarrass myself. So I've got some water here. Oh! Okay, take two. So we're going to put some water in this cup and make sure it doesn't leak. Okay. And we've got some leakage, as you can see, on the bottom of this cup. Now, if you're a whiskey aficionado, you may know why this is happening. I never disclosed the type of oak that I was using for these last two projects. I'm using red oak. Now, whiskey is not stored in red oak, it's stored in white oak. And the grain structure of red oak is very different from that of white oak. White oak is a lot denser, and red oak has a much more open grain structure. To the extent that it's so open, it can create capillary action, which draws the water into the wood and makes it very easy for the water to pass through, and it's very porous. I try to cut corners because red oak is a lot more readily available. I do have some white oak on order for the third installment of this video series. But before I let you guys go, I want to show you something really wild to demonstrate how open this pore structure is. I'm actually going to I'm going to seal the end of this cup with my lips and blow through, and you'll actually see bubbles blowing through the wood. That's how porous it is. That was pretty incredible, wasn't it? I never actually thought I'd be able to blow air through wood like that. In any event, the second attempt was obviously a fail. I do have some white oak on order with the hopes that the third time is a charm. If you found this helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and stay tuned for the third shot at creating a toasted oak whiskey tasting cup. Thanks for watching.